Coming up tonight, Singapore's foreign minister tells his ASEAN counterparts he's appalled with the violence in Myanmar and the use of live rounds against civilians is inexcusable.
Like a plane dropped out of the sky, one resident describes the moment a massive tree fell on a condo along Toh Ee Road.
And in the race to create the next super app, ComfortDelGro unveils an all-in-one app for transport, food and leisure activities. This is the Straits Times Newsnight. I'm Chao Suan.
Good evening, I'm Dylan Ang. Singapore's Foreign Minister Vivian Balakrishnan and his ASEAN counterparts met this afternoon in an informal online session with Myanmar's envoy, urging the country to find a domestic solution to crisis.
Dr. Balakrishnan spoke to reporters afterwards, expressing grave concern about what's happening in Myanmar.
The first is to express how appalled we are with the violence against civilians, made and reinforced the point that the use of live rounds on civilians is inexcusable in any circumstances. But I also made the point that it is not yet too late. They are at the abyss of violence, which will be of terrible consequences for Myanmar and indeed for our region. ASEAN continues to operate on the principle of consensus and non-interference in the domestic affairs of members. But that ASEAN wants to continue to engage and to be helpful and to be constructive wherever possible. But ultimately, the solution lies within Myanmar itself.
Dr. Balakrishnan's comments come as protests continue across Myanmar. In the northwestern part of the country today, a rally turned violent. 3 protesters were critically injured when security forces opened fire on them, according to medics who witnessed the events.
Earlier today, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong also spoke about the situation in Myanmar. He said the military coup is an enormous, tragic step back for the country.
In an interview with the BBC, he called on the military to release ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi, to negotiate with her National League for Democracy party, and to work out a peaceful way forward.
When asked how he saw the situation playing out, Mr. Lee said he thinks that sense can still eventually prevail. For more on the story, you can visit straitstimes.com.
Now for a quick look at the COVID-19 situation here. 8 new cases were confirmed today, all imported. They had already been placed on stay-home notice when they arrived.
In the courts today, veteran actor Terence Chow was charged with allegedly breaking safe distancing rules. He's accused of allowing 12 guests to gather at a Daisy Road condominium where a birthday party was held for fellow actor Jeffrey Xu. A man identified as Lance Lim was also charged. 11 others at the party have already been fined $300 each. The rules at the time restricted social gatherings to no more than 5 people.
A woman accused of killing her 2-year-old daughter was granted a discharge not amounting to an acquittal for her murder charge. It means that she can still be prosecuted for the offence later. She and her husband were charged in 2019 for killing their daughter in a Chin Swee Road flat in March 2014. The toddler's remains were found in a metal pot in 2019. The woman still faces 12 additional charges, including multiple counts of abuse involving 4 other children.
In other news tonight, take a look at the damage done after a huge rain tree fell on 4-storey walk-up condominium Kismis Court on Toh Ee Road. Owners of one of the damaged units told the Straits Times that the falling tree was so loud it sounded like a plane dropped out of the sky and crashed into the building. The tree, believed to be at least 40 years old, fell on at least 3 units and 2 cars. Thankfully, no one was hurt in the incident, which occurred around 10 p.m. Monday night.
Now, there are so many apps these days that can do so many things, and the competition is fierce. But ComfortDelGro is confident in its strategy of a one-stop app that covers transport, food and leisure activities.
Named Zig, the app that has cost millions to develop will soon be launched to help users find their way around, call a taxi, make reservations at restaurants and even book staycations.
Zig's top management told us how it's setting itself apart from the rest of the market.
When it comes to journey planner, including taxi booking, so the users or our customers are able to then use the taxi bookings right away within app, without having to open another app for that. So that becomes one of our differentiators. And then when we combine mobility with lifestyle services, we believe there is also another area where we can where we're able to then facilitate a more seamless commuting journey, whereby the customers are able to maybe enjoy, let's say, a coffee at the destination, pre-book a coffee by the time they arrive, and then they can pick up before they go to their office.
I think what we're trying to do here is sort of to drive traffic offline, to sort of connect both the offline merchants with our commuters. Since we know how our commuters travel, we could potentially direct them to some of these offline lifestyle services.
Speaking of online apps, another food delivery app has entered the field. AirAsia Food is officially in Singapore. In conjunction with the launch, the Budget Airlines food delivery service is offering unlimited free delivery for 2 weeks, from today to March 16th. The offer applies for deliveries within 8 kilometers from the order point.
Also launching is Japanese supermarket chain Kinokuniya's pop-up stores in Singapore. And no, it's not related to the bookstore chain of the same name. You can find the first pop-up at the Japan Rail Cafe at Guoco Tower in Tanjong Pagar. The next one starts on Friday at Isetan Scott's supermarket. Both pop-ups will run till March 18th.
Now let's take a look at what's been trending on social media today. If you've noticed that our air is a little hazy, it is. Smoke blown from a hotspot in Johor caused slightly hazy conditions with burning smell in parts of Singapore on Tuesday morning. The hotspot was detected in Johor in the late afternoon on Monday, but while it dissipated, with prevailing winds expected to continue blowing from the north to northeast over the next few days, residents may continue to detect similar conditions over parts of Singapore, said NEA in a Facebook post.
Volvo's entire car lineup will go fully electric by 2030, joining a growing number of car makers planning to phase out fossil fuel engines by the end of this decade. The Chinese-owned Swedish car maker said it will launch a new family of electric cars in the next few years, all of which will be sold online only. Car makers are racing to switch to zero-emission models as they face CO2 emission targets in Europe and China, plus looming bans in some countries on fossil fuel vehicles.
A painting by Britain's famed wartime Prime Minister Winston Churchill and owned by Hollywood star Angelina Jolie has smashed expectations at auction in London. The painting of Marrakesh, titled Tower of the Koutoubia Mosque, has been described by auction house Christie's as Churchill's most important work. After frenzied bidding, much of it carried out over the phone, the gavel eventually came down at £7 million, smashing the pre-sale expectations of £1.5 to £2.5 million.
Before we go, gone after many years of hosting, nurturing and supporting the local art scene, the Substation will be closing for good after it leaves its current location at 45 Armenian Street. The iconic space, which was Singapore's first independent arts centre, is scheduled to move out of the conserved building it has occupied since 1990 for renovations in July, likely to be its last day. A sad day for the arts, truly. I personally remember spending many wonderful evenings there and will miss that space.
And that wraps up the Straits Times Newsnight. Do visit straitstimes.com to see more news and videos.
You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the button below. Have a great evening and we'll see you tomorrow.